recording. Oh, hello everybody. My name's Karen Tonkin and we're training tonight CHCCCS019. This is session 2 of 3. It's recognise and respond to crisis situations. And in our class, we really like to be a community and bring that community spirit, and we really enjoy reading this together. So it will sound a little bit talking over each other, but that's okay. So if you're at home, please join in with us. Give this acknowledgement, a contribution. Let's go, everyone. Let's get off mutes and do this together. In the spirit of reconciliation,
institution, and their condition to the land, sea, and community. We recognise Aborigines and Torres Strait Islanders people as the first inhabitants of the national and traditional custodians of the land in which we work, live and study. We express our gratitude for the sharing of this land, our sorrow for the personal, spirit and the culture's cost of the sharing, and hope that we may move forward together in harmony and in the spirit of healing. We pay our respect to all our First Nations people and acknowledge elders past, present and emerging.
Oh, thank you, everyone. Gosh, that makes my heart full when we do that together. Oh, look forward to that every week. Class times, we will attempt to do just the one, but make it 15 minutes. And of course, if everyone puts their hands up and wants a second one, we'll throw another one in. It'll be around the 7-ish, 15:15 somewhere, maybe about 15:15, and then we'll come back at 7:30. Great job, everybody. Nobody does vape or smoke on the screens, but if you do want to, just blacken your screen. But please keep your camera on if you can. And don't blacken your screen. That way I can see you and know as well how well you're understanding and how much you're engaged in the actual class. Trigger warning, definitely, because we're discussing crisis. So if you are having a difficulty, please just, you're welcome to take time out of the class or exit the class. And I will totally understand, but do give me a thumbs up. If you feel like you want my support, I am here and I'm at the end of the class. So I'll make sure that you feel comfortable and stable by the time we finish this session. My aim is always to not actually be triggering. So we won't be using personal stories of any kind that relate to crisis where we are discussing details. What I do want is if you've got learned experience, lived experience, you've got some skills that you can actually add to anything that we're discussing and give quality contribution to how we can be better community support workers around crisis through your own experience, please do. Gosh, that's so valuable to us. Microphones are on mute. Again, we'll take them off and do some think tanking as a team and a class. And respectful relationships. So far, I'm just beyond impressed with everybody. We do want to have respectful relationships because that's what we're doing in the industry. We are making sure that we are client-focused, person-centered, being respectful, culturally sensitive. And that starts in class. And again, I think you're all really set for the industry. Be kind to yourselves. This is a bit of a tough slog, this night study. So sit back, enjoy, contribute, but have a good time too, and I'll make it as fun as we can. There's some of your support numbers. I'll leave that on for a second. Do know that Lifeline is a great company if you're having stress with study. You can call them. You don't have to actually be in a personal crisis to get support. The here and now, which we've had this slide going for a while, and again, I've found the engagement to the class so impressive. I actually really look forward to meeting you all and seeing you every week. The engagement and the participation, couldn't be more impressed. So I won't say much more other than that. So again, last week was week 1, class 1, and we really geared the training towards that task 1. Today, I'd like week 2 to really look at this class at task 2. So we are going to get right in today and make sure that you are assessment confident and ready. So role plays. Please take down this note if you wish. And what we will be doing is straight after class, you will have the opportunity to do an assessment next week. So that's the last training session. Or what you've got the opportunity to do Saturday the 3rd, if you would like to do the 019, which we're currently doing, and you can't do it next week, you can actually come 10:30 to 11:30. Also, just letting you know, this Saturday, July 27th, I am doing 10:30 to 11:30 as well, and you do your Zoom link, and that's the unit that we just last trained. So I think that was the CHCCCS019, and anyone who wants to, who is one behind, no, it was domestic family violence, sorry. Is that right? Who can tell me?
It was apply specialist and
It
interpersonal
was? I had it
counselors.
right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll stick to my first one. So it is the CHCSL002. If you're behind, I really want to give you the opportunity. So I'm giving up some time on the weekend, but that's with love from Hader. They really want to encourage you to catch up on all of your studies. We're going to do it as a class with your comrades and encouragement. So that's this Saturday, 27th, for your last unit if you would like to join us. Review of the last session, just very quickly, what we've got there are the 5 points that we did in session 1. So if you weren't with me for session 1, haven't seen the recording, we looked at what a crisis was, what types of crises that you could have, what types might come up in your work. And then we also looked at how we would go responding to a natural crisis, which we're going to do a lot more of tonight. We looked at our communication that we'd use, safety, and how we'd address safety concerns. So session 2 tonight, everyone, of 3. And this is what we're mainly going to be covering, just how we're going to deal with the crisis. And then what would we do to get emergency assistance? And how are we going to make sure that we are actually acting in a legal and ethical way for our job role? We then go into role plays. So we will be going into breakout rooms to practice our role play skills, and then we will be doing role plays as a complete team in the class. Yeah, so enjoy. So first things that we've got to do is look at critical incident procedures. So we have obviously a procedure is a process, the steps that you're going to follow. And a lot of companies actually have their own critical incident procedure. So you will always follow your workplace policies and procedures, but they'll actually have a critical incident procedure written especially for critical incidents. In this situation, though, we're really just highlighting that the very first thing is that one of the procedures that will be is to obviously get emergency services. What we're looking at first with the police, child protection and the family violence, they're safety services. They're your triple O's, they're your immediate crisis. That's where someone's safety is at risk. Your mainstream services are obviously things that we're going to do in conjunction to that. That's your psychologists, your counselling, your housing. There'll be procedures in regards to once we've established safety, we've got some emergency services involved. Also, when we hand over to the police and we hand over, we're actually handing over to a higher trained individuals. And that's the whole point. What we do and know in the workplace is that we are meant to actually go to our supervisors. So in a crisis situation, these are our superiors. These people are actually trained as first responders. So always think in any situation, go to your supervisors. But in this case, we're actually going to services. Again, I've got to make sure I don't gloss over this because some people, this is their first unit they've ever actually been studying with Hader and they're just beginning. So mandatory reporting is something that you will be discussing a lot more in family domestic violence, which is our next subject. But I want to come back and ask, does anyone or can anyone here help the rest of the class who may not know, but mandatory reporting in your own words? Who would like to give us a description of what a mandatory reporter is? Poojan, you going to give it a whirl straight off the mic?
Sure.
Thank you.
So mandatory reporting would be something like the documentations that we do in the work.
Sounds like that. They would come after the report. Yeah, you're right. So a report is written or verbal. So phone call, email, written incident reports. So what you'll be doing by mandatory, that means required by law. So a mandatory reporter is someone who's required by law to report. So it is known that ethically and morally, we are all
mandatory, yeah.
we are
If we see
really all
something going wrong,
required. Yeah, we're all
if we
required
see
to
something going wrong, then we have to report it.
yeah, we are all
Yeah.
required really ethically and morally to report if we know that there is harm to someone, particularly children, because of that, or vulnerable people. So what we have is mandatory is by law. Go for it, Shanika.
I was just going to add to that. You don't have to have like cold hard facts that someone's being abused or the child's at risk. You just have to have kind of a perceived notion that you think it might be happening, but you don't actually have to have the physical evidence behind it. You just have to have an idea that it might be happening. Something's triggered your thought wave on that, and that's sufficient enough to make a report.
Thank you so much, because that's really important. If it is possibly, likely, potential to happen, then we report. It's not after an incident. So it is actually hopefully preventing further or any abuse. So that is a mandatory reporter. And what we'll be doing in the domestic family violence is really looking at state to state, because every state has different laws. So in the Northern Territory, if you're 18, every single person is a mandatory reporter. But other states have, the main ones that go across Australia are all teachers. We've got all doctors. We've got all nurses. We've got all psychologists, all childcare workers. But then we get into some states and they actually have dentists. Some have chemists. So get ready for that, guys. We're going to go right into that next week. But so long as you recognise next unit in 2 weeks, you are all mandatory reporters in your role, because you'll all have a work with children and be in the community services. So regardless, your job will actually require you to report. So we'll come back to their legal obligations. So our legal obligations are obviously, we're going to discuss them a little bit more at the end, and we're going to loop back. So this is just in an emergency situation. What are you immediately obligated to do? Tonight we'll look at all the laws at the end. But right now, in an intervention of an emergency, obviously you've got a report. Your legal obligation is to look for safety for self, others, and all involved. So therefore, you are looking at getting safety services. And no, good practice is to not have any more exposure. So you want to actually be mitigating. You want to be removing the situation. So that's what we're looking for. It's to attend to the emergency situation, mitigate it, and remove it. And that's what you need to and are obligated to do. It's about safety. The biggest part that we now have got to do is we're looking still at responding. And what we've got to do is look at our listening skills. And what we're going to do is practice them in our role plays. And what we're wanting to do is the listening skills in a crisis situation are slightly different. But what we are looking for as a support worker is we're trying to interpret information. We are very quickly assessing. And by listening rather than talking is an opportunity to actually do assessment. Then we can gain some meaning by what's actually happening. The other requirement that we have got to do as far as our skills is be patient. So that's the style of your demeanor of how you will be responding in a crisis, which is very simple. It's calm, it's collected, and I think we looked at that word equanimity last week, calm and composed, particularly in an actual crisis situation. The reason you want to do that is that it will hone your attention so that you can interpret, gain meaning, be patient. And then what we're going to do is actually have active listening. We're going to actually be giving our full attention and focus and really looking at what's actually being said here. You're on a bit of a time pressure when we have a crisis. So we've got to be able to do these at quite a big speed. And we're going to look at that in a moment and break this down a little bit more. So by reflective, what we're actually doing, we're using our communication to quickly clarify. Is that what you're saying? Is that what's being said? Am I correct? So to give you an idea, I was much fitter, used to be trained as a rescue scuba diver. You won't get a bigger crisis than that. And my examination, what they gave to me was a person running at me because the person will be in shock. Their dive buddy's actually under the water. They tell you how many seconds that you've got. I had to actually be able to get X amount of information, and they gave me X amount of seconds. I had to find where, who, male, female, to a person that was actually out of their mind, crazy, wild. So I'll give you a tip. You turn their back to the crisis because they won't look at you. This sounds great, listening skills. Oh, I'll do some reflecting. If there's a real crisis going on, what they'll be doing is turning to the crisis, and not even you'll have the back of their head. They'll be blah, 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 blah. And the only way you can get information to listen to is to get them calm. So the techniques that we were actually able to do, and this is not if you're unsafe, you would not approach someone you're unsafe. But if this person is simply in shock, you've got to step back, rotate their back to the crisis and engage them and actually hold your hands quite firmly side and just give them some physical comfort. So if you do need some very quick information to assess the situation, which we're about to learn how to do, you've got to stay calm and composed and use your face and your body and use their face and their body away, maybe even step away, because then you'll be able to actually have a conversation with someone who is really in fight and flight and panicked. So strategies for dealing, it's an immediate crisis. We've got that reflective listening, and that's what we're trying to do is help hear the person clearly. And that's going to actually enable thoughts and the thinking process because this person's going to be offline. The person's going to feel like they can't even get their thoughts. I don't know if you've ever had that happen where you just can't think straight. And that's that front part of our mind that's just gone offline. And generally, the other thing you've got to be aware of in a true crisis situation, if they've had a big dump of cortisol and adrenaline, that has actually gone to all their muscles, particularly their legs. They're going to want to run. You're going to be dealing with someone who is going to be really difficult to hold still. So what we've got to do is really consider, how are we going to gain and assess a situation with someone who's not capable of giving us that information? How are we going to do our assessment? So I want to come back and have a class discussion with you. What are your ideas, guys? Because if you are in immediate danger and there is something that's a threat and somebody is responding in shock and they're in adrenaline, how are you going to do active listening? Anyone got
I
any?
can't use my current workplace examples. 15-year-old to drive a manual car, and she gets that adrenaline going through her and she starts shaking and gets nervous, and I just tell her it's okay.
Yeah.
Before we even like put it in first gear, I just tell her it's okay.
Yeah.
Hop out of the car, go for a run, circle the car twice.
Oh, thank you.
Down. And that's what she does. And then we're back into the lesson. We start driving. Same thing. If she stalls and I see her shaking with all that adrenaline, get out of the car, run around twice, come sit back in.
A lot of post-traumatic stress is because exactly what Sky's saying, the chemicals haven't been released from the bloodstream. So if we've got to bring someone back to a calm state, we've got to recognize it. It's not going to always be appropriate to say, let's go for a jog. But you can recognize that they aren't going to be able to sit still to listen to you. So your first words, which we spoke about last week, which is, I'm here, you're safe, the team's coming, we've got this. You've got to really use your language and your confidence skills to put that pin back in their grenade. So you're going to have to really lock eyes if you are to calm someone down, and assess and really see if they can then just understand that you're there, you're on board, you're safe. The police are coming. Just let them know that services are on their way. You're not alone. We're here for you. So you're going to have to really have some confidence and some assurance in your words. So the values and beliefs that you'll have as a community support worker is going that obviously most people do get into this line of work to make a positive difference. And in doing that, we've got to recognize that we're going to have some of our clients in and out of crisis in the community service. We talked about suicide ideation and self-harm. So that's that dignity of risk, but that we've got that line between preserving safety and life. So with that, we've got to always hold it in mind that everyone is an expert in their own lives. So by that, if there is a crisis that you're supporting somebody through, we need to always help understand their situation, be non-judgmental, realize that they're unique and so is their life situation. Be even more compassionate if they're having setbacks, one crisis after another. We discussed last week that some crises can relate to drug and alcohol abuse or overdose. So what we're really looking at here is having a value and a belief system of just really nourishing dignity, honouring others, and respecting differences. So what we've got here, with that frame of mind, with one of unconditional positive regard, curiosity and compassion, what we've got to look at with self-harming, there are a lot of stigmas and assumptions that can be very destructive and disruptive. Let's nut this out together, guys. What type of stereotypes or myths or ideas do you think that people have about self-harming that are actually going to get in our way of supporting someone in a personal crisis? Shanika?
I'd say the one that I've probably heard the most is especially older generation, unfortunately, saying, oh, they're not going to do anything with it. It's just to get attention. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, they can just see it as somebody who's acting out and maybe not actually value the depth of despair. And in my mind, even if someone was acting out, that gets my radar probably more. I don't see that as, oh, it's just a cry for attention. Well, wow, that's really important. So, but you're right, they say that in a dismissive way. I see that as a pay attention. Charlie, what can you give us that you know of that hasn't been helpful?
Or when people think that it isn't needed to be taken seriously until there's like a medical risk or a risk of like harm to like long-term harm to the body, like ignoring when it's still self-harm, but it's not necessarily immediately dangerous, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, I get you. They're minimizing it and not seeing if it's not life-threatening, then maybe it's not that big a deal. So when it's a big deal, it's a big deal. But what you're sort of doing is in your description, Charlie, is saying it's always a big deal. Yeah, I love that. Thank you. It is always a big deal.
Like obviously
Go.
there's like different like appropriate responses. Like if if it is a medical emergency, then it should be treated as one. But even if it's not, yeah.
Yep. Even a cry for help or attention is worth us leaning into and supporting. Thanks. Damien?
The perception that like the older generations are like that that sort of behavior is weak.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. There is something even troubling about some of the stigma with the mental health that can go along with self-harm and see it as, why can't they get themselves together?
Yeah, like have a teaspoon of concrete or something, like that old saying, like get over it.
Yes. Yeah. And what's really interesting is that none of us tonight look the same on the screen. We all look beautifully different eyes and different facial expressions. None of us are the same on the inside, but isn't it weird that we can impose our way of our thoughts and our trains of thoughts and how we handle our emotions and expect, Damien, you're not even look alike. Why would we think alike? And that we even think we can get into someone's head and know what their viewpoint is. So we always have to have that values and beliefs of knowing we don't know. So this is the active listening, the true active. Shanika, then we'll go to Cool. Yes?
I just wanted to piggyback onto what Charlie was saying, that whilst one person's perception of something might be, oh, like it's such a small thing, you can't discredit the way someone else is feeling about it, because to them it is what's consuming them at the moment, whether to someone else that looks different, like that's only a small issue, is still an issue to them. So it shouldn't be discredited based on the size of it from other people's perceptions.
Also, the reason why they did it is like just as significant. So you can't tell by just looking at it.
Oh, thank you. I love that, girls. You can't tell by looking. Oh, gosh, we should write that somewhere. And you're right. To someone else, they enjoy going to the dentist and go lots of times. And to some children, they've been traumatized for a very long time by the same experience. So our experience is not theirs, and we can never think it is. Love it. Cool. And then we'll go to Odonaka. Yes?
Yeah, I wanted to add one thing, the misconception.
Yes, please.
Discussing about it encourage others to do self-harm is one of the misconceptions, I think.
That someone else is going to copycat.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. The other thing you're right about that copycatting is that sounds like teenagers. And they can often say, well, they'll grow out of it. It's just a teenage thing. Lots of teenage girls and boys. It can be just put down as a rite of passage, or the age, or immaturity. Yes. So again, this is all dismissive, isn't it? There's no value in the fact that somebody's hurting for some reason. Odonaka? Oh, you got your mute on, beautiful.
Sorry about that. Okay,
That's
so
okay.
some people think self-harm, some people self-harm themselves just to manipulate or control people.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
not just
Also,
attention, but get something else. Yeah.
yeah, and also some they think is maybe the person just wants to punish himself or herself. Yeah.
Yeah. So you,
And maybe attention seeking as well. Some
oh,
people think that, yeah,
what was that one?
attention seeking.
Yes,
Some
yes.
people may think that, yeah.
They
Yeah.
might even think that they will just move on, don't pay attention, maybe in that way as well.
Yes, yep, yep. So like a naughty child, one of the things is just don't let them know you saw it. So putting some blinkers on as well, they'll grow out of it. Charlie?
There's only one way or one thing that is self-harm. Like when people talk about self-harm, they're only talking about one specific way to do it. And I think it really like dismisses the fact that a lot of things can be self-harm, especially like depending on a person's intentions behind doing it. Like if it is harm to yourself and your intention is to harm yourself, like it's not just one thing. Like self-harming isn't just the one thing that it seems to be.
Thank you, Charlie, because you're right. We have categorized it a little bit. I have to admit I have too. When you say the word self-harm, I don't know if many of you are thinking the same thing, but you often straight away think to cutting. Then they also do the burning. So there's sort of a typical viewpoint. So I love that what we're doing is we're opening up our minds, because we need to open up our minds to be able to spot this. What we're learning about tonight is recognizing crises, and it's not ones that are going to blow up spectacularly in your face. They're going to be there. And I think what you've just mentioned, Charlie, is that perhaps they're actually underdoing their own medicine. Maybe they're overdoing. That's self-harm by not allowing yourself to meet your actual prescription. It's still an action that's damaging your health. So we're going to need to look for some covert self-harming measures that people are doing that aren't typical, that aren't teenagers, that are definitely damaging their physical and mental health in a little bit more of a drip, 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 slow fashion. It's not spectacular. It's not on the outside. It doesn't involve blood, but this is a self-harming activity. Thank you, Charlie, because we're going to have to, again, be more open to being more aware of more things. Sky?
I've just seen it happen in a professional setting where a doctor from Townsville has come across here to community to do immunizations and health checkups. And obviously in Aboriginal community, they've gotten the cultural safety and sensitivity, read the policy. It's all fresh in their mind. They've done everything correct, absolutely amazing. But then they've come to location, they've met a 14-year-old girl to do immunizations, seeing that she's got burn marks and self-harm there, and disregarded it because he believed it was so culturally inappropriate to have that discussion with a young woman by herself without her parent and him as a male. So I've seen that happen too sometimes, which is a bit odd.
Wow. Okay. So seeing it and then rationalizing why you're not going to take action. So another thing that I think is really important to touch on, because what we're looking at is we're working with vulnerable community that also probably have some form at some stage of some mental health challenges. One of the reasons that people do cut as well is that it actually gives them serotonin. So what's happening is, for some people, there can actually be a biological reason. It's not necessarily attention seeking, that they are actually not manufacturing the right amount of serotonin. So cutting does, and so does burning. So when the flesh is injured, it rushes platelets to the site of the wound, and lovely, your body, so lovely, it responds with some good chemistry. So sadly, there is an addictive part of this, and it is very much a trap that people can get into, because it actually feels good inside their chemistry. So we need to hold a great deal of compassion for the cycle that this happens. Some people find it very difficult to stop. It's not, oh, well, why would you cut yourself? It's got to hurt. That's not actually the case. It's actually it's a harmful way to co-regulate their nervous system. So what we're looking to do with anyone that's having these crises and challenges is looking at assisting them to get that good brain chemistry, the serotonin, oxytocin, and all of those lovely chemicals, yeah? So we've got the assumptions, which you kicked it out of the park, everybody. You gave them better than this. That they've got to be mentally ill. That's not true. That it's actually linked to a suicide attempt. Attention-seeking trends, and then we went on and did about another 10. So proud of us. All right, guys. Look at this little fella. Hey? I'm coming back to the group. Who are your heroes, people? Let's go up on another note. Anyone want to share a hero story that they have? Any role models? No? So a question like, who are your heroes, is a strength-based question. Now, everyone's got to be honest and got to put their hand up. When you saw that little fellow and the who's your heroes, did you get a lift to go, oh, come on. I did. Come on, just the word hero. Straight away, yes. You see how language just does something, you know? Everyone's got a story and everyone's got a positive story. So what we've got to do, if our language is going to be very important in this community service, especially with people that cycle through not small crises, but personal crises over again, we've got to look at our language. So what we're going to do tonight is learn strength-based. Yes, and that's a strength-based example. So we're about to watch this small strength-based approach, and I'll just give you this other slide first. So strength-based language, but you've also got strength-based practice, which is obviously getting the person to connect to safety, empowering them, assisting them in any way you can through your support to break that cycle and always have them feel supported. So we've got strength-based approach, and then I've got some strength-based language for you. I'll stop this recording.
Not defined by the challenges.
Yep, go.
By the challenges we face. You know, that
Yeah.
we're more than the like the people are more than the daily obstacles.
That's so well said, Damien. Because what happens is sometimes some people can be defined by their obstacles, by their situation, or by their illness. And if we're wanting to be person focused, we're looking at the person, not the actual illness. So another way to watch your language when you are speaking to someone, instead of saying you're depressed or you've got depression, it's really good to make sure that we watch how we say that, or you're an anxious person. It actually can really feel like we do label them. So, you know, you can be having some depressive symptoms at the moment. We need to just really look at our language when we're supporting them, so that they know that we do see them and that we're not talking to or addressing the symptoms, but the actual strengths. So what I'll do is just minimize, and I'll get you some strength-based questions. Come back, and we're going to share. So I put this together for you, and what we've got, I'll just move this over so I can see, and then move me. So strength-based questions, as you saw in that YouTube, focus on finding solutions. So it's also that we're not just focusing on we're not choosing to focus on the illness, we're focusing on the person. But then what we're actually trying to do is focus on the solutions for the person rather than the problems, or as Damon said, the obstacles. We're wanting to go past that. So some of the actual types of questions, if you are wanting to focus around their resources, because that's what we're looking for in the strengths, is I did love the question they had, which was, what's a good day for you look like? That's a lovely question that we got from the YouTube. Here's a few others that you've got that you could use when working with someone in a crisis. And again, using your attentive listening and your language to pull them out of the crisis situation that's in their mind. What else could we include as your resources and positive strengths? That's a very straightforward. Can you tell me a story about a success you had in the past? What gives you a sense of accomplishment, confidence, and what makes you proud? So that's a lovely one. What positive things do people say about you? What are some of your personal skills, abilities, qualities, talents? If we're wanting to use language that's looking for solutions and we're wanting to focus on support, here are some of the questions, but I get so bored with my own voice. Who wants to read the support questions? This is like back in class when your teacher made you read page whatever. Who wants to read the support questions for us so that we can embed them in our mind and use them later on? Anybody?
Yeah.
Thank
Right.
you.
Who are the people that are especially important to you? Those who you can rely on? Who are the people who have given you special understanding, support, and guidance? What is it that these people give you that's exceptional? How did you find them, or did they come to you? What community connections do you have who is a part of your community? Tell me a time in the past when someone supported you and what he or she did. What support systems are currently available to you? Can you recall a person who represents some type of hero in the way they dealt with life adversity? What did that person do? Can you develop an image of them? Can you tell me what they mean to you?
Thank you so much. There's only two options ones. Who's going to put their hand up and go for it? Just do it. Cool. Can you do it for me?
Yeah.
Thank you.
What have you thought of trying but haven't yet? What else is available and hasn't been tried or utilized?
Beautiful. So self-esteem questions. When people say something good about you, what are they likely to say? Now, all of this changes their brain chemistry, guys. It is really quite uplifting and soothing, but with every thought, they say there goes a chemical. This is so good for mental health, your language and your questions. What is it about your life, yourself, and your accomplishments that give you real pride? How will you know if things are going well in your life? What will you be doing? Who will you be with, and how will you be feeling, thinking, and acting? This is all what they call NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which is where you use your own language to actually help program your neurons, your brain. What gives you genuine pleasure in life? Future possibilities. What do you want to achieve, accomplish in your life? What is getting in the way of this happening? So we're looking for barriers. What ideas do you have to overcome these hurdles? What are your hopes, visions, aspirations? How far along are you in achieving these? What are your hopes for your future or your future of your family? So anyone else want to read the exception to the problem? Everyone's quiet tonight. I'm coming back. I'm picking
I
on
can.
everyone. Woohoo, go. Thank
Do you
you.
want me to?
Lucky. Come on, Lucky.
How have you managed to overcome past challenges you've faced? What have you learned about yourself during those struggles? What was your mindset as you faced these difficulties? What have you learned about yourself and your world during these struggles? What are the special qualities you can rely on? sorry, you can rely on?
Yes.
What things, yeah. When things were going well and was not happening, what was different? What parts of your being would you like to recapture, reinvent, or relive?
So family, we want to know also about important family rituals and stories. They're so meaningful and they'll be really deeply embedded in that person as something they value. Especially if they share it with you, it's so wonderful. Ruth? Just got the mute.
Sorry, these questions that you have here, can we have a copy of these questions so that we can think about?
I can try and email you them. Yeah. How about at the end?
They're very useful.
Thank you very much. And wait till you see the motivational interviewing ones. I actually put them on a PowerPoint. They come in your next one. So motivational interviewing is about a call to action. They're very different. Strength-based is about, instead of coming out, it's about going in and finding that strength inside the person. It's about their internal resources.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ruth. Well, I'm going to actually get you to read the last few then. We've got, these are focused on some family, substance abuse.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Focus. So how does using help?
Yeah.
Okay. In periods of using less, what was the difference? Periods of abstinence, what was the difference? What has endured despite abuse?
Yeah, and you'd ask what's endured even despite using. So unfortunately, yeah. So solutions, go for it. The last few.
What's working now? What are your successes? What are you doing that you would like to continue to do? What do you think is necessary for things to change? What could you do to make that happen? What if a miracle happened? What can you do now to create a piece of the miracle? Yeah, I like those questions. They're really, really good because they make the other person think about it rather than, because.
And as you can imagine, you'd only need 1 or 2 questions.
Yeah, but if you got a whole reference guide,
if
you had something when you went into an interview, you've got a whole reference guide to give you an idea when you're going in to prepare yourself for a particular interview.
So I went to the toy shop in the counselling I did, and I got a fairy wand, a magic wand.
Yes.
And I would just hand it to them and I said, if this was a true magic wand and you could wave it, what would your life look like?
That's a good one. Yeah.
So, and the other thing you can do, if this is a troubled person, because we are always looking to empower and respect, they have their own resources. Everyone has what we call a self-writing capacity to write themselves. And so what we've got to do is let them find it and dig deep. So you can actually do that through your questions. So I often used to ask as well, is that when was the last time you had fun? That might be someone who was depressed, and straight away a smile will come to their face and there is a story. What makes your insides happy is another fun question. So because that's really about them finding their strength.
Okay. Well, if you could send that to us, or
I'll take some names in the middle section and I'll go hunt down all your emails, guys.
Yes, please, because I would find that very useful, that little question guide.
So give me a couple more that you might use in a crisis that you have, because we're about to do the role plays, and these particular people, they start off, there's 3 of them, and we're only going to do 2 today, and we're doing them completely, that you could have them finished off. The 3rd one we'll do next week. They're only light, these first 2.
I haven't actually, I've been trying to catch up on my other studies. I haven't really got into this one. I'm only just listening because it happens to be on, but I'm a long way behind on these studies. So I hope it's not going to.
Not at all, but not at all.
Because I haven't really prepared for these role plays.
That's okay. No, you don't need to, because we're preparing in class right now.
All right.
Because what we're doing is, in these role plays, we've got someone who is agitated. And we're
Okay.
we're not going to ask what makes their insides happy at that point in time or give them a fairy wand. It's a crisis. So, but your language will be still focused to de-escalate, restore safety. This is someone who's gone into their stress, sympathetic nervous system, fight, flight, fright, or freeze. So we are dealing with chemicals, and we've got to use our language to bring them back to the parasympathetic nervous system.
Okay,
So,
can I ask one more question? If we do these role plays and they're signed off, do you send us a copy of this role play so that we can upload it, or how does it work?
sure do. So what we're doing now, Ruthie, is that we're week 2, we start on role plays. Week 3, we finish, and at the end of the session, we will. That's why I need to see you all interacting today, because I'll be ticking off parts of the skills I need to see. And then after class next week, we go off camera. We aren't going to be in record. We're going to do it as a team all together and finish.
Okay.
Our role
good.
play is done. That's
All
why I'm moving a little fast.
Mm-hmm.
So let's keep going on that, and then we'll have a break at 15:15. So
Sorry, just because I'm new
Yes.
to it. It's my first night tonight. So so next week, from like tonight and the week before, so next week when we do it, all 3 of our role plays would be signed off from you seeing what we're doing now and then actually in our pairs, correct? All 3 of them, or just
well, I hope to. So anyone who doesn't feel ready, because we've got to get the skills up, guys, but the opportunity's there. If you don't feel ready, that Saturday, which I had on the first slide, August the 3rd, straight after this unit, there is that complete hour. Use the same link as the class, and I'm right there for you to do it again. You can use this as a practice. If you think you're not ready, that's fine. Watch everybody, relax, practice, and then come on the Saturday and have another go. That way we are finishing. So this Saturday coming, the 27th, because some of you came late, I'm actually going to use this link for this class, and we're going to do 10:30 to 11:30, and we're doing the last unit, Ruth. Yep. So just in case for some of you came late and missed the first slide, you might go. The last unit that we just finished is actually on for this Saturday.
Can I just quickly ask a question on that?
Yeah.
So obviously you're just mentioning how you've just finished the last unit, but those who are just beginning and this is our first unit, obviously you you go back around.
No, this is the first time I've ever done this. I've just noticed that for some people, it's a real struggle to get it all done, and they're leaving their role plays, and it's really stressing them.
Oh yeah, it was more so the last, like you were talking about how you guys finished off the last unit, and that this Saturday, 27th of that.
Yeah.
Obviously those who are just beginning their studies and this is our first unit.
You don't need to come.
No, we'll go, but those units will happen again, obviously.
But hopefully if I can keep studying with you and training you this way, you'll have them done by the 3rd week of our classes.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's all. Yeah.
So, but you're right. I will assist the class as catch-ups if for some reason. Yep, don't you worry. But my aim is to don't make me have to do that, guys. Okay. So we did the strength-based approach. Just got to move. Oh, I've got a hand up. Sorry.
Sorry.
No, you're right.
Last week, so there was a catch up for us. Is that still happening on the 3rd of August as well, or not?
That'll be this class that we're doing.
That's this class we are doing that still? Yep, that's all right. I just wanted to make sure on that, just so I had that right.
Yep. So just in case.
Sorry.
No, you're right. Just in case someone can't come to class next week, I've got 2 opportunities. Yep.
Okay. Yep.
And I just
you.
decided to throw the last one because I checked out a few people hadn't done it. So I just went, okay,
that's all right.
Better backtrack too. No, that's okay. It's really good. I love that everyone really wants to be on track. I want you to as well. I don't want you stressing.
Okay.
So decision making and coping, what we had just talked about now is that we've got a variety of people. So that's why we give you 3 role plays. I can't just get you to do practice skills for one scenario. So you're going to need to vary your approach. And that will come naturally. I want to just really recognize too that words be collaborative, which we saw in the YouTube. Collaborative means working together. So you're not leading the person, and you're always allowing them to actually have empowerment, agency, and autonomy. So collaborative is that you're supporting them by their side, but you also are going to need, we're discussing crisis tonight. You're going to need some directive language at some times, because again, your tone of voice is going to have some reassurance, but you're also going to have to possibly in some cases be quite directive in your language around alcohol, medication, when you are assessing for risk with some of your clients. So you're showing respect with active listening and strength-based questions, but if appropriate, varying your approach, you're going to have to also be prepared to be very directive. So one of our role plays is going to actually require you to be directive in manner and even directing the person to another room. So it's about also taking charge of a safety situation. Yeah. So it's a tricky skill to learn, but you guys are getting it. We've got to always look at reducing danger. So if it's not an immediate situation and there's something you're going to do and it involves a person, get consent. Even if we're about to do this role play and we're going to say, I think it's best we get you to a safe room, you're not going to grab them and drag them off. But your directive is you're the one that can think straight. You're the one that can come up with the direction. They're possibly going to be quite distressed. So you be direct, but always get consent. You're safe. Would you like to come with me to a safer place? I can get you to a private place. Would you like to come with me? Please follow me. Ask. Be directive, be strong, and be proactive, but always getting consent, because that's the part about being clear about your legal obligations. And that is to follow policies and procedures as well. But be directive if needed and always work cooperatively. And that's what I'm going to be looking for in the role plays. So I'm going to skip over this because it's simply asking us about responding to crisis. And this is what we've got here. So these are some of the steps, and then we'll have a break and come back and get into some role plays. What we're responding to now is risk, which we have been discussing a lot about assessment last week, assessing the area. And then obviously looking for assistance. And if that's in your immediate work, you're looking for your supervisor straight away. The highest trained person takes over the situation. The same as if the ambulance arrive and you're doing your CPR and you've got a certificate and first aid, you are now second in charge. So seek assistance immediately, because we were looking for superiors. We're also looking for support for us. And then we've got to actually work on the safety. So that's really the steps we want. As soon as we've assessed the situation requires somebody, get the support, next step. Then together you can look at the safety. Again, we talked about, Shanika?
So I just wanted to add to that, something that I've always been taught in first aid is, even if you hold the same qualification, ask them when they last updated it. So who has the fresher knowledge of the situation as well.
Love it. So who the superior trained is the person who's got the most current, up to date. Love it. Thank you. Imagine if we all start scratching heads. When was that? Last October? We'll have to split hairs on that one. It depends on how time precious the situation is. So responding to risk, we've discussed a lot today in regards to communication, and that's what we're going to be seeing. Removing the risk, having discussions and getting support. We're going to have effective communication, listening without judgment. We're going to remove triggers, look for self-harm, look for medications. So what we're removing is obviously danger, and that is going to be different to every situation. We might be removing ourselves from the situation. We might be removing the person. We might be removing the alcohol. We might be removing the trigger. But what we've got to do is put that pin back in the grenade and remove something to get to a stable, safe situation. And remember, the support, what we're discussing here is also support at the end. So what we want to do is look at getting support during and support after. So here we have one of your questions, which I thought if you haven't done it, we can do it as a bonus. And this was question 11, where you're working as a community service caseworker. And you've been promoted to become a team manager. So there you go, you're one of the superiors. One day while you're at work, a man wielding a knife comes into your workplace and threatens to harm a client. We've got to answer these questions. Someone may have already done so. Assess the urgency of the threat. So what we're looking for there is we would ask ourselves the question, what is the threat? What's the level of the risk? And how much is this immediate danger? So what would you be putting there?
High risk.
High, yeah.
Yes, high risk. Yes.
High risk, immediate danger. So straight away, this is an absolute crisis situation with life-threatening consequences. Great, guys. Now that's the risk. Evaluate the situation. How are you going to do that? So we've assessed it. We know what it is. It's absolutely critical. Now the situation, what you're doing is to evaluate that. You're looking at who, what, people, and support. So the situation is one man. You've got a client. Yep.
And he has weapon.
Yes. Great.
Are we looking for safety?
Yes. So assess the area straight away. That's the next step. So you've evaluated. We've got a man, we've got a knife. Because again, you've got to look at what are we dealing with here.
I'd be looking for the nearest door.
Yep. So
Where's
that's
my next doorway?
So
and also, are there anybody else in around? You know, it could be a support person that I could just give a bit of a yell to or something like that.
And that's
like this little.
And there is a client whose safety is also important. So,
yeah. Assessing the area as well, I'd be looking at the distance between that person and everybody else. Straight away, I'd be flagging the distance. I'd be thinking about the resources in that area. Is there an alarm? Sometimes there is. They have alarms in these places. How close is the phone or phones? Barriers, as you said, support, exits.
Have you got a phone on you?
I would consider my staff aware of what's happening. Have they been notified as well? Or are they just going to come into the situation?
Yes, that's spot on, Sky. So assessing the situation is, oh my gosh, am I the only one aware of this? Yep, and that's that support. Shanika?
It might be tricky, but try and remember like your training and your organizational procedures.
Yes.
So I know that in my workplace that I've just started at, we have code words as well to do with like duress alarms and things like that. So if we hit a duress alarm, we get a phone call. And then we have a code word to use if it's not a good situation. So you don't have to be like, oh my God, he's got a weapon. You can just be like, oh yeah, code latte or something.
Yep. And that's exactly right. You will always be doing this in your workplace policies and procedures. Thank you, Shanika, because a lot of them do have their own set way and their set language, which is to alert people of the situation. As you know, there's lingo and the police have all the lingo, and your company will too. So you've got to be able to follow their procedure. Ensuring safety of self and others. So yeah, so straight away in this situation, we're going to assume you've assessed the situation, you know what's happening, what the support is. What are you going to do?
Maintain a safe distance.
Safe distance, yep.
From the immediate threat as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to call the emergency service as well.
Yeah. So straight away, yeah, you're calling for support of, police, yep. Shanika?
Not escalate it, so don't match their level of panic. Just remain, like we said before, remain calm and see if you can utilize certain words to calm them down a little bit rather than get all panicked yourself and reflect their current behavior.
Thank you so much, because that reminds us how important our training last week was. So as you know, sometimes the police have to attend and there's a hostage in the house. Now, the person who comes is highly trained to de-escalate that individual and even get them to the point where they will drop their arms, drop their weapons, and come out with their hands over the head of the house voluntarily. So you're right, Shanika, how we respond with our body, our words, and our manner is everything. Straight away, you're onto emergency services. And then
do you have time? That's the thing. He's coming in at you, and you don't really have that time. So I think Shanika had the idea. Code words sounds. I didn't realize they did that in some workplaces.
Yes,
so,
but
that's the most important thing you could do is if you've got code words and the workplace is sort of
definitely
aware that these people are potential hazards, and so they've come up with policies and procedures that could prevent these problems happening.
And that's the part about ensure safety, that you're right, Ruth. That's where you're like, where's my support? And then she's corrected, how do I get it? And how do I actually alert them of what the situation is and the critical level of it? But you're also needing to stay calm. And if they're having aggression, we're not going to dukes up. We need to de-escalate whilst
I'll be sort of running, I'll be sort of looking at that door and saying, quick, get out fast. Sort of
and that's what we might be doing.
But that would escalate it, wouldn't it?
Well, not necessarily. You may need to exit, but you're certainly not going to stay and incite aggression.
Yeah, because I'd want that client. He's attacking the client, so you sort of want them out as fast as possible. And while you spoke to him as quickly as you could, sort of thing, and said, "What's the problem? What's the problem?" And then be telling her to get out.
Yep, and ensuring safety of the others is you are going in this situation, going to want, this is really a lockdown situation, and you're going to want to actually exit. Shanika?
So
I was just going to say as well, kind of utilizing the practices you'd use with a client and recognize what they're feeling right now. So say to them like, hey, I can see you're really aggravated. What can we do for this? And see if they'll give you that solution-based thing first, I guess.
Perfect, because that's what we're going to do in one of the role plays. It isn't life-threatening. The person doesn't have a knife, but Ruth's right. You're going to need, and Damien said, get as much distance as you can. So obviously you're not going to leave anybody behind. You're going to keep everybody safe. So we're up. Yep. Sorry, Odnaka. Yep.
I was just wanting to ask. So in some situation, like when a client like is armed, like he has a knife or she has a knife, and maybe is coming towards you. So at that point, do you still have to like have the courage to like calm the person down, or your safety first?
Everything's always safety first. But you're certainly not going to be aggressive, but you would be looking for a barrier of some sort, a desk or whatever you could to prevent them coming forward. But no, that's not a time to talk really, is it? That's physical action needs to happen.
Yeah, because on Tuesday during breakfast, we had an incident like that, like in the morning when we are having breaking. So he just walked into the dining area, started yelling at everyone. Before we could know it, the coffee trolley and everything is already turned upside down.
Wow. So you had what you've got here in question 11 for real?
Yeah. So
wow.
With that, all the residents already know. Everyone cleared from the scene. So what I did, I was lucky enough. Everyone that came for breaking already understood what was happening. Everyone just flew. So what I did is I went to a closed door, locked myself, and called the police.
Fabulous.
So we were so very lucky that, like, in a few minutes, the police arrived and, took up whatever that happened and took him to the hospital, which he's still in the hospital till now anyway.
Wow, well, you're going to have such an easy way to fill this question in. I'm laughing because I'm a bit shocked that you've actually had something exactly. But you must be so proud of how you handled that, because it's up there with ensure safety of self and others. You obviously are reasonably cool-headed.
Although that's not the first, but I think I've encountered so many of it to know that, okay, so when this happens, this is what we need to do.
Wow.
And I will say that I'm lucky that most times when we're in such situation, the residents around are those ones that are not really, like, they know what to do. Yeah, like in as much as they're mentally deranged at some point, but in such cases, they know that the first thing is safety.
Yes.
So I don't actually have to tell them to go. They already know they have to go. So yeah.
And you're right, because that's what we've got in these first bit is the first step: assess, evaluate, assess, safe. So what you're really looking for is that door that you went for, or that exit. Ruth, I'm running with you. Shanika, yeah, don't you worry, babe.
Yeah, but then you don't want to leave. You've got duty of care to the ones that are in the room. So you
but Odnaka had everybody gone. She was onto it.
yeah.
Shanika?
So,
I just wanted to add as well, for anyone that kind of this sounds like a lot to be dealing with in the workplace, a lot of companies will actually give you a training as to what to do in that situation. So part of that sometimes is like the minimal of self-defense and how to deflect and put barriers in and things like that. So you're not always expected to just know it either. Like you will receive training from organizations if that is a risk as part of your job.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Let me chip into what Chinaka just said. So when it comes to the self-defense, so there is this perception when it comes to a male and a female. Now, when two residents are like fighting or something, as a female, I can easily come in between if it's safe to tell them to stop, and they will stop or nothing will be held against me. But as a guy, like as a man or as a male, you are not really like, it's not safe for you to come in and maybe hold one person to stop talking. I don't know if I'm making sense at all.
No, you are making perfect
100%.
sense. Yes, perfect sense. Because
it's not really allowed, because this, as they say, the laws say that the resident can sue you for not allowing him, especially when it comes to a male, for not allowing him to exercise or like, to speak up at the time he's supposed to speak up, something like that. I don't know.
Thank you so much. That's such a valuable input, because we've always got to look at, and that was the other parts and the other slides, which I won't go back to, is your legal obligations. And you're right, you could end up in a court of law if this wasn't handled well. And you're true in saying that for a man to apply a little bit of force, as I mentioned before, I had to just put firm hands on shoulders, which is what you're talking about, Odnaka. Some men might actually look as if they're mishandling the person just because they're male. So we've got to take care. This ensures safety of self and others, is what you're saying, is make sure you're also safe in how you handle it, so that nobody actually comes back at you by your efforts. Thank you. That is so important. Lauren, what would you like to add?
I just want to add that working within community services can be a lot different as well, with responding to crisis situations as well. Like I work in a detention centre with youth, and they're very high risk, challenging youth. So I have a lot of scenarios, so I could go over all day, that I've been exposed to. And I was listening, and everyone's right, but I also think that your rapport building is really a safety as well, because I feel like scenarios that we've had in our workplace, well, my workplace, is that someone can actually identify that that young person wants to be listened and heard because they have that rapport, and how they actually have that problem solving with that young person because they have that rapport building, where others have trouble identifying that young person because they haven't worked well with them, or they haven't built that rapport with them just yet. So I think that's really also identifying, different individuals with being safe around escalations. And there's always a feeling behind a behaviour. So really identifying that is also building that rapport with your client or young person as such.
I love that you've given us an industry viewpoint, both of you, all three of you actually, because Shanika's just started with youth as well. on how important the earlier slides where I've just flicked back to the listening skills. And that was how we deal with people with respect. And we're always looking for interpretation by being an effective listener, gaining meaning from what we're hearing. No assumptions that we know everything, we don't. Having patience with the person and their story. And then we discussed earlier about having active reflection, making sure we ask them, is that what you meant? And this is all the rapport building. People want to be listened to, and these in the earlier stages, and enabling them to have their thoughts. And these slides seem quite simple, but what you've just done for us, Lauren, said is that if we have this very basis of foundation and rapport and some trust built, when a situation comes that is a crisis where trust is needing to be actually then withdrawn from that bank account. And I understand what you're saying, Lauren, bank it. Bank that level of respect and bank that trust that they have in you, because you may cash in on a crisis and it might be the only thing that actually allows them to hear you. Thank you, Lauren.
And I don't mean like you have to, obviously, you're in a crisis situation with someone's got a home, like a maid shift in the detention centre. I don't mean like go in there because you feel like you can trust that young person. It's just knowing. I mean, everyone's got a window of tolerance. I don't know if we talk about that in the diploma. And, you know, working with young people, some you can pick up on and indicators. I think we spoke about that last week. And I just think that, yeah, building that rapport and that, it's my safety that I use every day, knowing, am I going to go in that situation and am I going to be safe? And as well as my co-workers responding into codes being called on our radios. Sometimes it's actually, we need to have that extra support in the unit, because sometimes it's not a great to call the code, because it actually escalates it more. So trying to de-escalate and identifying what will work in that situation. But again, every situation's different.
Yep.
Every young person, every client is different. Everyone's got different feelings and how they react to different emotions. So it is quite tricky, I feel. But yeah, building that rapport and getting to know someone, I think, is a really big thing to do in community services. That's just my experience.
Yeah, you've just hit that other earlier slide too that we had about being adaptable to take different approaches, and that's what you're saying. And so some of these slides, you think, oh, that's just take that for granted. Of course you would, but the value of those steps of being adaptable, recognizing the uniqueness of the person and the uniqueness of your reply in that situation. So great. Thanks for another rich start, everybody. I'm going to press stop because I'll let you all have a break. Okay, everybody. So we're just got to come back to, oh, sorry, Sky, you put your hand up.
Yeah, no, I was just saying I'm happy to be one of the first volunteers with the role play.
Oh,
so I work in the industry, got no issue doing it.
Yeah, I'll probably
fabulous. Yay. So what we've got to do is look at the duty of care requirements. Again, a lot of this is brief because it's very well detailed in your learner guide. But we're looking here as well. There is obviously in family violence, self-harm, suicide, what you're always looking at, that the duty of care is safety, not just to the client, it's safety always to the client, self, and all involved. Again, the duty of care here that you're going to have to do is most likely mandatory reporting in those situations. So we've also got the duty of care. We're always working with having respectful behaviours, informed consent, dignity of risk, which means we're always making sure we have consent with our client when we're working with them. Consent to share information, consent to seek referrals, mandatory reporting. We would actually breach confidentiality if there was harm to someone. And again, that's our duty to do that. It's our duty to keep privacy and confidentiality, and it's our duty to break that confidentiality at the risk of harm. So organisational policies, There is one of the questions that you've got, Ruth, actually in the first task one. Is it the great question you had was, well, what policies would I actually follow? It actually gives you a question where it asks you to get on Google and it asks you to find a workplace policy and organisation. And it is going to be a crisis intervention policy. So I would encourage you all to, when you get to do that question, don't just stop your Google search at one. I kept going up a little bit of a rabbit hole because you've got your standard government workplace health and safety, but then you have family violence companies that have their own, and they're all slightly different. So that's where you will be doing some research on that policies and how different they are. And they will instruct you about code words as well, Ruth, that you mentioned. So again, you've got your legal and ethical considerations, but what it also means is legal and ethical conduct. So you've got your duty of care, which we just spoke a bit more detail. Your contract requirements, that means that if you've been contracted in a job role, then you need to actually stick to your actual job description as well. So you've got your workplace policies, but you've got your workplace job role and your contract requirements. So if you're contracted and parts of their policy are to go to your superior, if your contract is as a junior, you don't take the superior position. You're always going to seek that supervision and stick to your job role and your job level. And that might mean that you're actually handing over to a superior, most likely, in a crisis situation. Records management, again, we're going to always keep everything private and confidentiality, and we're going to keep all of that as per legislations. And in your records, in crisis situation, you're going to, which we will be doing next week, there'll be incident reports. So these incident reports aren't always injury, it's injury, illness, trauma, or crisis reports. We do that next week. The other thing as far as records go as well is that you'll do a crisis intervention plan. We could do that next week as well. Other legal considerations, we've touched privacy and confidentiality and understanding your roles and mandatory reporting. So workplace practices, obviously, if you are identifying family violence, there'll be preliminary assessments and comprehensive assessments. But what you've got to recognise is that once you actually identify and assess, you are then seeking support. That's part of your procedures and policies. That's part of your obligation, mandatory reporting. And that is part of the steps in your practices. And that means you're going to go to your support worker, your supervisors. You are going to do mandatory reporting. These assessments and comprehensive assessments aren't actually your responsibility. That's where we're handing it over to authorities who are higher trained and are professionals with experience. And we are engaging those expertise to hand over. So we're really got to just assess. And our next step in a crisis is always to preserve safety. And that means also the next step is then we're going to get emergency services. And then we hand over. So crisis can sound quite confronting, but we stay in our lane, stick to our job role, and look to get some support from superiors and services and hand over. Just as you would if you're a first aider. You're not going to go drive the ambulance and start actually doing some, paramedic work. So what we mainly got to do is now demonstrate in these professional practice, which is our role plays. We're going to get role play ready and then we can get doing assessments. We're simply doing those first steps. So I do want to just show you this role play checklist. Now, this is the standard start of nearly every role play that you'll be doing for most units. The reason I'm bringing this on is that I understand there's quite a few of you and this is your first unit. We've got rapport, explaining privacy and confidentiality. These steps are not done in a crisis. You are not going to start explaining your job role and organisation to that example of that man coming in with a knife that we have in question 11. But I just wanted to bring this on because ordinarily, as a support worker in most of your other units, these are the steps that are going to be the start of meeting with a new client that is not a crisis situation. So I wanted to show you them first so that you don't get under the impression, because tonight we're going to skip right over. We will always hold rapport and respect, but you will not be explaining confidentially and your organisation and what you can do in this current role play, but expect to do it in the others. You will always be listening, assessing, working with respect and empathy. As Lauren actually mentioned, every behaviour tells a story. We are staying compassionate even in a crisis. We're going to be person-centred and non-judgmental, culturally safe, even in a crisis. Ruth? You've just got your mute on again.
You know, when the police get involved, they always say that whatever you say is given in evidence. I'm just thinking in a crisis situation where you've got someone coming in with a knife, whatever they say would still be used as evidence against them, wouldn't they? Even though they've signed no confidentiality situation or things like that, that would all be used as evidence against them now.
Absolutely.
As soon as they walk in that door with that weapon.
Yeah. As soon as there is potential or likelihood that is not even have happened. But yes, that's a likely situation that there is potential for harm to someone. Breach of confidentiality is gone. But that's why I just wanted to show everybody else who's never done a role play before that this is actually your normal first steps.
Yeah, no, I was just understanding because I know when the police come in, they always say, whatever you say is going to be given in evidence. We don't have to say that even. But it just will be given in evidence in spite of that, though. And they've just taken that risk by walking in with a knife.
And that's why next week's role play has where we have to fill in that report so that you know how to keep it factual.
Yeah.
And what information, because you're correct, that report can end up in a court of law.
Yeah.
You're never putting, that's the non-judgmental language on there as well. So it's never our opinion. It's who, what, when, how, and why. And it's straight facts of what happened in the event. And we'll practice that next week. Thank you for bringing that up. But you're right. Straight away, these steps have gone out the window. I'll show you what the checklist is for me as an assessor. What they're wanting to see in this particular role plays is that I can see that you can respond to the signs of crisis, observe. I'll let you read them. Straight away, we're ensuring safety. So these are the same steps as question 11, but we're going to get you to do it physically. Determine whether it's an emergency or not, which means you're calling 000. Using appropriate communication techniques, because we are looking to de-escalate this situation in any fashion that we can. We're always remaining positive in our behaviours towards everyone concerned. We're looking at coping mechanisms about making decisions and always being legal and ethical. And by legal and ethical, that is that we are doing what we just discussed about keeping everyone safe, duty of care, respect. Following policy and procedure in legal and ethical at the time of the crisis is if you're a mandatory reporter, report. So your task 2, I'll give you a bit of a rundown of Denise. So you're a client service officer at First Access, and Sky has volunteered to actually do this. And I think Damon is first as well.
It is Damien, don't worry.
Damien, sorry.
Right.
Everyone's different. So you're assisting a client, Denise, and this is the least of the crises, in updating her details with Centrelink and renewing a car registration. She lives in a small country town, comes to your service in a busy suburb. She's often very emotionally and physically exhausted for her. She's been attending your service for several months. So this person's got rapport. You've got a relationship. And this is what Lauren mentioned. Lean in to de-escalate. Use that trust and rapport that you've done with your language that you use. She's in her early 40s. She was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder after her drug-affected partner attempted murder-suicide. She was shot in the leg and tried to escape. Her partner attempted 2 more times to shoot before shooting themselves. You finished assisting her with Centrelink and her registration and making up a follow-up appointment in a month. You and Denise are standing in the busy reception area where you're saying goodbye to Denise before she leaves. So what will happen here, you're in the reception. Denise has finished her appointment. You're bidding her farewell when she becomes distressed, and you're now needing to respond to her to provide support in this crisis situation. So this is an emotional crisis. Do you remember the first week we determined what is a crisis? It's an insurmountable event. It's a natural disaster. We gave all the descriptions in week 1 of what a crisis was. This person's having an emotional crisis. So we can make an assumption that perhaps she's heard a noise that's made her distressed as well, or she's overwhelmed because she's overstimulated with the people, or she's having a flashback. When you say backflash, something new, flashback. This can come from nowhere from post-traumatic stress. It can be a little breeze past their ear in a certain way that their nervous system remembers. And so she's been transported back to a traumatic event. So what we're looking for, guys, here is, can you identify what's happening to her and observe the signs carefully, consider the safety? So what you'd be looking for here, I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, I'm going to come back and put multiple speakers. Hopefully I can get you both on the video. I don't know how to do that. So what I'm flagging there is that this is a busy reception. Heaps of people around. So the first thing we're doing, if you look at those steps that we looked at, assess the situation, assess the risk, and then assess the area. So we know that there's no immediate danger. This person's not got anything life-threatening. This is not high risk. It's not a critical situation. There's your assessment straight away. You're not calling 000. Then you go straight down to assess the area. You've got someone in emotional distress, panicked by the seams, and you're in a busy area. So, Sky, are you going to be the support worker?
Yes, I am happy to be the support worker. I do have doing it a bit differently than how the assessment says. The assessment does want us to like introduce ourselves, to go over that, to say, oh, great for your Centrelink payment, blah, blah, blah. We're not doing that, correct? We're just Denise is highly, we've done all of that. We're pretending we've done all of that, and now Denise is there and we're saying goodbye and this is happening.
I don't need acting. I don't need blurbs.
Okay.
It doesn't show me that you know how to show compassion when the crisis is there. I need you to respond to someone in distress, de-escalate the situation. Yep. But if I can get you to also just think about what's going on for them, like, would you stay in that area? Just giving you a few hints, everybody. Would you actually stay there? So have we got Damien again?
Yeah.
Has he gone?
Yeah. No, I'm here.
Okay, great. So you two are on. I'll put the gallery. You're both on, and take it away. So Sky, you're going to actually respond to a crisis, and what would you do?
Well, I don't know. My crisis hasn't happened yet. Is my crisis upset? Like, what's my crisis upset about?
Shanika, what would you like to add?
Sorry, I just wanted to ask the question. Am I able to jump in at all if I have anything to add? Or
I want anyone who can show me any of the skills. The first thing that we're looking for is that you need to actually, you've assessed the situation, and then you really do need to consider saying, I can see you're really upset.
Who am I meant to be in this situation? Am I also the support worker?
Denise.
Denise. I'm Denise.
You're Denise.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. Denise
Need to
hasn't
find my wig.
been angry. Like, I don't know.
No, she's visibly upset and disturbed and distressed, and we know that she has post-traumatic stress disorder. Shanika, go for it. What would you say?
Obviously after recognizing to her, like, hey, I can see you're feeling really anxious right now. It's a bit of an open space here. Do you want to come step into an office with me or private space or a meeting room where we can sit down and maybe have a chat about this?
Perfect. So you've assessed the situation, you've looked for what you can do in the area, and that is get to a private space. Yeah. So Denise, what are you going to say?
So I think as Denise, I would obviously I'm distressed, and obviously, you know, that would be really helpful. That would, given I'm exhausted as well, maybe a place to sit down would be helpful to maybe take some of that exhaustion away as well, and to quieten my own mind.
Yeah, I think as well, just going off of that one, like putting her into that and her following us into the private room as well, just keeping in our minds that she is from a rural town. She is driving a long way. She's expressed that already. She's got that heightened emotion. Maybe see if her family or husband came into town with them and maybe they're running errands at the same time so that they can drive back so she's not driving back. Also just giving her that cup of tea, that biscuit, that friendly ear, you know, just trying to get her to open up more as to what's brought this on as suddenly as it has. Just a lot of open questions. Okay, so how are you now? You've sat down, you've had a tea and a biscuit or cheese and crackers, whatever your office has. How are you feeling? What can I help you with? Is there anything specific you'd like to talk before you head back, Denise?
I think it's great that you flag you're not going to leave her on her own, because what you're wanting to do is pass that duty of care across to having someone come, see who she's in town with, make sure that you're not leaving her alone. So we've got, I don't have you've only got your numbers up there. Yes, sorry, take it off, but come and give me some skills.
Sorry, I was just going to ask, I would have offered a drink, like a glass of water, and asked same sort of questions, but I think I also would have asked them to like maybe take a deep breath and work with them a little bit just to calm them.
De-escalating skills.
Make sure it's very quiet. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I would have said, instead of saying, can they call someone, I would say, can I call someone for you?
Yeah.
If they had someone with them, instead of them having to worry about the phone and having to do that.
And we're looking for
validation in that system. Yeah. And being a Centrelink worker, if she was doing those sort of things, you would probably have access. You could probably ask permission. Do you mind if I look at you up and I can get an emergency contact off the system? Because generally in Centrelink forms and things like that, they generally have all that sort of information.
Beautiful.
Save them having to try and get it out of their phone and give it to you.
Awesome. So you're keeping everything simple, keeping it easy, quick and accessible.
I think if I was to step outside of Denise for a second, if I was just to jump in the support worker mind, or the Centrelink person, I'd maybe try some redirection, de-escalation techniques. Maybe ask her, maybe like sense of distraction. Ask her once she's calm and she's had a drink, maybe say, so what else brings you to town today? What are you? And that's where you could probe with other
once you've seen her become grounded, you're then looking at giving her some distractions.
To take her mind away from the anxious thoughts or, you know, the exhaustion, you know, and that's where you could, when you ask about, you know, what else are you doing in town today? That's where you could probe about asking other questions. You know, did your husband come with you today, or are you here to see some family? Have you, like, and you can ask questions, I guess, that sort of build a profile, or if you don't know, if you don't have access to her file, you can sort of on the fly build a profile.
Yeah, it sounds like she's been with you for a little while, but you're right. You'd know what to do next. One thing I want to consider as well. Did you notice that in the actual role play, it said that you were bidding her farewell? Has anyone flagged that?
Yeah, we were bidding her farewell. She gets anxious on the hustle and bustle and the trip there. So yeah, anxious. Maybe
she's not ready for a farewell. Like,
okay, go for it, Dadi. Keep giving it to me. What would you then say if because this is the assessing the triggers. If you've just noticed that you've just said bid your farewell, what would you do? How are you going to backtrack and restore safety for her? What are you going to say?
Maybe she just needs more support.
So would you say, I won't leave you? I'm here for you?
No. Maybe we can just
Yep.
say maybe she's we are always there for her support if she needs in future. So maybe just
But even in that moment, because it sounds like she actually had something come up as you were leaving, and you could say, I know I just said goodbye, but I'm not leaving. I'm going to stay.
Yeah.
I'm here for you. You are safe. They're only going to hear your first few things. Yep. So just restore the fact she's not alone in what's going on, and you're not going to leave her alone. I love the idea. Then the next thing is who can give the additional support. So the first thing you've got to restore is that I know I was leaving. I'm not leaving you now. I'm here for you. Adanaka,
sorry.
give us some of your skills. What are you going to say to Denise?
So first of all, you just went down the lane I was about to go, because I already
go.
I'm already beating farewell, only to notice that he's a bit down. So first of all is I will retrace my step, which is like coming closer, trying to reassure him. So yeah, reassure him, telling him that I'm always there for him, that I'm just leaving your presence doesn't mean I'm leaving you entirely. You can always reach out to me and all that. Try to calm him down first. After that, then maybe I'll ask him, do you want a cup of coffee? So the more I see he's coming back, then that's when I can ask, do you want me to call anybody for you? Do you feel you're safe to go or something like that? So that's where I will come in. But first thing first, knowing that he's not okay, I'm not going to tell him about calling anybody and all that. No, I'll first reassure him that I'm always here for you. You're safe. Like you have to be calm. I know that you're a bit stressed, but just know that I'm always there for you and all that. Yeah, that's the first thing to do.
Love that word, reassurance. So Lauren, go for it. Give us something.
I also would, if I was working amongst this participant and taking them to these organisations with the services that they're providing for Denise, I'd also make sure that I could manage the environment as best I could, and also ask for a smaller space for Denise, because she was quite anxious going there. Identified that she's got a lot of experience with trauma with the scenario that she went through with her husband. So maybe men are triggering her as well when she does enter the community. And obviously she's from a small town, so having her around the community is obviously overwhelming for that particular person. So identifying those triggers and the trauma behind that is really big for making sure that she has a successful interaction with the services that she's attending to. So first off, making her comfortable as well. And obviously she doesn't want to leave. So just assuring her that, I'm here. Also booking, she was going to Centrelink, so unsure of why she was going there. I think there's obviously they're ongoing. So communicating with your next appointment, I will see you this day, and having that familiar face when she attends that service, so it's consistent with her. So then she knows what who she's going to get. If she feels a little bit of vulnerability, she may be able to disclose some things that she may not want to keep disclosing every single time she sees Centrelink. So reassuring her with that same consistent worker, I think will be the best result for Denise.
Amazing strategies, guys. Let's keep it up. Shanika, I've written down everybody's names who's actually giving it to me too, by the way, and you'll be getting marked off because you are reassuring, supporting, de-escalating. Go for it, Shanika.
I was just thinking in terms of being in that moment, and you've taken her into a separate room, then asking her, do you have any pre-established grounding techniques? Is there anything you want to practice right now? And if they're kind of no, then offer, hey, let's do some deep breathing together, and offer that solution straight away. And then from there, just going by what you were saying as well, she doesn't obviously want to leave yet. So saying, hey, is there something that we haven't covered that you want to discuss further before we part ways? And then if I don't really know the qualifications of this person that's dealing with her, but if she's like, yeah, I really need to talk to someone right in the moment now, saying to her, hey, okay, let me grab the phone. We'll get Lifeline on speaker. We'll get someone talking to you right now.
Love it, because you've gone to your superior support, not emergency support services, but mental health. That's awesome. So Cool, you're next. I've actually realized I can find the who did it what. I'm not guessing because I've got 7 of you. Go for it, Cool. What are you going to contribute?
Same as Sanika, I would take her to the private room so that we can have good conversation, and I would acknowledge her feeling and ask like, I see you are feeling upset. So what's going on? And then I would ask her, let's work together. How can I help you right now?
Love it.
And we can also ask direct question like, are you feeling like you might hurt yourself or anyone else?
Checking for safety is important at the right time of that particular moment. Yeah. Yep.
And I would ask, I understand you are frustrated, but the violence is not the answer. I mean, if she is feeling like hurting herself or to the anyone else, then I would say violence is not the answer. It is not good for anyone. So let's work together so we can find the solution.
And get her additional support. Adiyam, what are you going to give us?
So I'll wait for her to calm down. I'll try to come close to her so she can just feel like that reassurance. I'll come close to her, just try to be close to her so she can feel she can calm down. And I'll wait for her there until she's calmed down in that area before asking her to go somewhere else. And then I'll tell her, do you want to go somewhere that's more silent? Do you want to have a cup of coffee, cup of tea? And I'll just make sure that she's calm. And I'll make sure that she sees that I'm calm and I'm not panicked.
Yes, role modeling. Yeah. That was what we spoke about last week. Your body language is 80% of your communication and then your words. So you remain calm in your physiology and you're not becoming restless and agitated as well. Beautiful.
That somewhere quiet, and then I would ask her if she needs any help with anything else, if she needs me to call anyone, or if she wants to stay there with her, that I'm there with her, I'll stay there with her until she's calm, until she's like ready to do the next stage.
Beautiful. Now we've only got numbers. What is your beautiful name?
Sorry, it's because I'm on my work computer. My name's Sarah.
Yeah.
Like I was saying before, I think I would add to mine that I would reassure her that I'm not pressed for time, like she's not a burden.
Thank you. Thank you.
Because I think being in a big hustle and bustle place, and as we all know, it's like being in a shopping centre sometimes when you're trying to go into places like Centrelink. I'd reassure her that she had my undivided attention and time, and that I wouldn't just leave her because I had to go and consult another client or be somewhere else. I think I would make sure that she knew that she wasn't going to be left alone because I had another job to do, that she would be cared for.
So what you're saying is, I'm here for you. I'm not going anywhere.
Yes.
And I'm not in a rush.
Yes.
I love it. Okay, next hand is Miss Charlie Rogers. So impressed, guys. Charlie, what are you going to add?
Well, after using like grounding and self-soothing techniques and like asking if she has any that like she uses and can be used right now, I also wonder if like the trigger was her leaving the care and actually leaving, having people surrounding her and like being scared about I don't know, like going home. Maybe she like lives in the same place where like the initial event happened with her ex-partner. Like I wonder if
Charlie, I love this assessment. This can actually happen a lot when they're separating from the safety of the support person.
And I wonder
I
if
don't want to go home.
Asking her what she can do when she gets home, if that is the case, so that she knows when she does get home, she will still be safe and supported. Like asking her if she can call a friend ahead or something so they're there when she gets home, or like have a friend on call on the drive back or something. Like so there's still supports in place when she leaves.
I love this because what can happen is what we often consider is, and remember we're assessing for family violence, is here we might say that we're checking for safety for, do you feel safe to go home? Such a good point. Now, some people don't feel safe of themselves. They're home alone and they don't feel safe of their thoughts. And that's what Call brought up for safety. Are we flagging potential suicide here. Maybe. This is quite serious post-traumatic stress. So we are wanting to assure them that they're safe, take them to a safe place, restore their equilibrium. And then we've got to check for safety, and when you've all done it, supports, phone calls, people, but you want to ask them the direct questions. This is where we ask that direct question. Do you feel safe to go home? Okay, I've got some more hands up. Can't love this enough. Sky?
So I was just thinking it was the act of leaving that triggered this. So maybe go through the back entrance or the staff entrance. You know, the staff entrance generally has that nice little area for smokers with all the pretty plants, and it's just beautiful and colorful and artwork. Maybe take her out that way and see if that helps her, so that it's just less stressful. It's nice. It's a calming way.
You're de-escalating the environment.
Yeah, it's less formal. It's not, oh, I'm the client, you're the caseworker, go out the front door, goodbye. We've got that relationship. I'm showing you this is where my place of work is. This is where we hang out. You're kind of a friend, but not a friend, but like pretending to be a friend, and helping her leave.
You're being
in a
friendly.
way.
Just friendly, yeah. So what you're doing is you're relocating her, but you're also looking at a calmer exit. That's great. Johanna?
Yes, I was going to ask the same question as the Charlie, I don't remember. But
Yep.
anyway, I'm gonna say
Yeah, great. So
I'm gonna
yeah.
ask about safety on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the highest risk, which number do you choose?
Done.
And the another one probably could be, do you depend financially of your ex-husband? Because it's important to know if she come back is because she doesn't have anything to eat, or doesn't have money, or doesn't have job. Because
honey,
could
you're
be
right.
scared, but if she feel like doesn't have anything, probably she come back just for that.
Do flag. You're the first one that's really flagged as well, that you're in Centrelink. Centrelink is often involving getting community support and financial support. She might be leaving with no money. So the fact she's separating, she may not have got the result she wanted in the Centrelink, and now leaving. So this sounds really simple, but it's actually got a few bases to cover. You've just given us another layer. Is this a financial issue? Is this a homelessness issue? Is this a despair over not getting support financially? She's missing some support. So I got now Damien.
Yep. I guess I thought back to when obviously we were reading the blurb about it, that we stated she seems distressed, that she's not actually saying it. Whether or not, you could view that as she might not be actually comfortable speaking about it. So I guess, whether you could approach it in the sense that, obviously you might try and avoid the elephant in the room, and go about it a different way, in the sense that, obviously distressed as you're bidding farewell, whether you could say something like, "Hey, look, hey, I'm going on break. Would you like to come sit in the other room for a coffee?" And use that as an opportunity to then de-escalate her. Obviously, you can tell she's stressed, but you're saving from saying it.
You're correct, because I can hear what you're getting. You're making sure you just say, "Would you like to talk about it?" So it's again, there's no pressure. Would you like to talk
Give
about
her
it?
like informal support in the sense where you're probing her.
Yeah. Sky, you're next in the queue, and then I've got Jessica.
Just coming off on the back of that financial one, like you said, coming out of Centrelink, we know that her car registration loan got approved with Centrelink. Obviously, money's tight. The possibility of potentially, us or showing her or asking her, where the emergency relief is, if you guys have vouchers for food bank or so on and so forth, that could, relieve some pressure off her. She's not going home worried about what's for dinner and feeding the kids and whatever.
Yep. So now we've got Jessica, and then I've got Jen. So Jessica, come on the screen. Let us see you.
Oh, sorry, my screen. I have a problem with my screen.
Oh, that's okay. What would you like to add?
Yeah, with what you were saying. So after taking her to that secret room or safe place to talk about the issue. So in terms of building the rapport, maybe you could chip in something kind of funny, maybe how is the weather like from where you are coming from? Was there any traffic? Did you face any difficulties coming here? Just to cool her down.
Yep.
Because even during that time, she would have taken either the coffee or tea or
Yeah.
whatever. So,
Yeah. So
and I've
Damien,
just
yeah.
giving her more like for her to feel more safe, like feeling like, oh, she's talking to someone who is actually listening to her and all that. And then when you are like saying the goodbye also, you can assure her that even though she's leaving, doesn't mean she's leaving, but you guys can still have in touch. Like maybe you can give the office line or something, like in case you have any worries or issues you would like to speak with, you can always call this number. They are available to listen to you and all that. Or even you can even let her know your name if she wants to speak to you throughout, since you are the one that took her in. Maybe she wouldn't feel comfortable like taking an issue to different people. Maybe like
Yeah, I like that you're flagging checking in, because you could actually say to her, here are the after hour phone numbers, which is what you're saying. What other supports can you give her? You could actually even offer to say, can I give you a call to check in you arrived home safe?
yes.
Yeah,
And then
love it.
like with the financial issue, it also counts to maybe with the ex-partner, they did how do you call it? They did save together and now they've been separated. So maybe there might be issues on how to get the money back and all that. Maybe that could also be part of the reason why she's going for Centrelink and all that. So
yeah,
maybe you could ask, maybe do you have more to spend like out here living, or is there any family or friend that you could stick to or speak to whilst going, since like she feels anxious. I also have these feelings from driving like long distance bike.
yeah,
Like I'm overcoming it. So I think
yeah.
yeah.
Beautiful. So just letting her know she's not alone, but she's not alone in that situation about the long drive, and being compassionate and caring in your choice of words. Jen, lovely to hear from you. We don't get to hear from you much, Jen.
Hello. I've been a bit quiet tonight. Sorry.
It's okay.
Everything everybody has said is just really strong points. So I just thought of something to potentially add, assuming that all of these steps have
Same
been
thing.
put in
We're layering
place.
on. They're
Layering.
not gazumping. This is just amazing. Yes.
In addition, I thought to the point of enabling positive thoughts and behaviors, just to make her feel more positive about coming in next time. Maybe you could say something like, before you leave today, I'd really want to book in your next appointment now, so I can make sure that you see me next time, and I can book you in at a quieter time of the day if the anxiety is around the busyness of the town and the Centrelink.
So Lauren mentioned same person. Now you're adding on, you've assessed the triggers and you're looking at getting a quieter day, a quieter time.
Yeah.
Yep. So we've got the familiarity and reduce the
anxiety about coming back next time.
Yeah. And secure that you're going to be the support for her again as well.
Yeah.
So we're taking away all of that, and we're keeping some consistency in the representation of the people, but we're not going to put her in that same busy situation again.
Yeah.
Amazing. Poojan, what have you got? Any extras? This person's being well taken care of, guys, by this bunch of community support
I
workers.
don't think I have much to offer though. So I would probably just most of it has been done.
Okay. I don't we'll go
just put I think that I'll just go like let's offer her a break by saying I'm about to take a break. Would you like to join me for a coffee in the other room? So that would kind of provide a change in the environment for her to relax.
So we're looking at change of environment, lessening the stress of the environment. Then we're going to change her internal environment, the coping mechanisms, the breathing. She's had a lot of cups of coffee.
And while there, I would also say I noticed you seemed a bit stressed earlier. If you'd like, I'm here to talk. I'm here to listen. There's
I
no.
love the I'm here to listen. That's a lovely reassuring statement. Onanaka, what if you, oh, sorry, Pooja.
Okay.
It's okay, because we got one more role play after this, guys, too. So
Okay, so what I want to chip in is, so after everything, maybe we've calmed him down and everything, let's always encourage. Okay, so for me, I always encourage him to reach out whenever he needs help. He should always know that we are there, and he should not forget to reach out. Maybe giving him contacts that like helplines and help anything, any way that I know we can help. Just always encourage him to reach out whenever he needs help. It's very important.
Wonderful. Not just this time, anytime. That's amazing. Catherine?
I agree with everything that everyone's saying. I do a lot of observing on her personal body languages and that. And again, I'd offer a quiet area to go to and to listen and understand and make sure that she feels safe, and make sure that she's got a companion or family members to interact and take her home, and probably stay with her overnight or stay with her or at a family's place where she feels safe, because it could have been could have been emotional because of Centrelink, because sometimes it's stressful. She could be looking for help with finance, food, housing. But there might have been some little trigger that made her emotions escalate as she was walking out. It could have been a voice. It could have been different people.
Yeah.
You don't know unless you're that person. So the only thing you can do is make them safe and observe them, calm them down, be calm yourself, and make them feel secure that they're in a real safe place.
I love that you've added having someone on the other end of the house. That's great. So they mightn't be in the town, because we did check that. Is there someone who came into town with you? Is there someone I can call for you now? Can I bring someone here? No, they're back in the country. Well, no, Catherine's got him at the home, ball on the jug. She's going to have another cup of coffee when she pulls up.
Well, you got to have support. You got to have support.
Woo! David, and then we'll have to wrap this one up, guys, because you've done so well. We've got to get through the next one tonight, hopefully, too. Or we can save it for next week, whatever anyone wants to do.
I just wanted to add, I guess, whilst like relate to her feelings, sort of take the power away from the fear if you can. Speak to her in the sense that, and I guess that would come in with active listening as well, like repeating her back to say this, obviously if she says this distresses me, say, you repeat it back to her. So this distresses you. I find myself in these situations, I struggle as well. And just, I guess, being on the same level as her, it sort of normalizes, I guess, takes the fear of being alone in that fear.
Yeah, you're showing a great deal of understanding her situation and validating her feelings for the situation about crowds. And we know it may not have been the crowd, but you're using that as a way to de-escalate her concern. So it was Sarah, wasn't it? Yes. Great job, everybody.
Just following up on booking her next appointment, I would probably offer that I would call her the next day just to make sure she's okay. But also I would put in her schedule that I was going to call the day before she's to come that far into the city or wherever she was going to the Centrelink, just to make sure and go over all the documentation that she may need to bring in. And if she hasn't got that, then to reschedule the appointment so if something isn't right, she doesn't go through this traumatic situation again. Because sometimes, as you know, when you're going into places like that, you have to have correct documentation or, just identification or anything like that. And it's a lot of paperwork, or go over her online application with her over the phone before coming in. Because I think sometimes when things go wrong at places like that and they don't get the result, it's more about not having something with you to prove, or
You're
having the
doing
right information.
You're doing preventative work, which is what the girls were
Yeah.
saying as well. Make sure you can have the same person at quite a time, and maybe even
Yeah.
break down what you're doing is offering to break down the whole slog of the task and say we could actually start this in advance a bit more slowly, a bit more readily, and not have it be such a big episode of work.
Yeah.
Great job.
And even offer the chance, because a lot of it can be done over the phone without having to have that hard travel for no reason. There are circumstances. So I just thought maybe offering it.
Yeah, we're removing and mitigating stress. And what we had at the beginning was being non-judgmental. What's traumatic for someone else is not traumatic for you. But you're absolutely right. Maybe we've got to avoid this event in the future. It could be just the sheer episode of the volume of work, of the pressure of coming, the long drive, and the amount of people.
Yeah.
So it's a nervous system with trauma that is very highly sensitive, and we've just done a whole lot of stuff. And what you've done is like remove that, give them a familiar person, take the number of people away, take the tasks away. What you're doing now is you're offering preventative stress reduction now at home and before it happens again. Well done.
Yes.
How reassuring is that? What a great team you are. Adiyam. Oh, look at me, I'm pointing the pen tonight. I've got so much people. I love it.
I'll just tell her, like, I'll give her like numbers that she can call, like free counseling, like Beyond Blue and stuff at home. She can book an appointment, talk to someone that she doesn't know. Maybe she won't feel comfortable to talk to me about her personal problems, but she'll be happy to talk to someone that's a counselor because that's their role. I'll do that. I'll offer her other numbers.
Gorgeous. So, Lauren, last one, and then we'll move on to the next case. And I'm sure we'll be super fast because we'll just say ditto what we just said before. No,
I think mine goes off with what Sarah was just saying, and I have worked in employment services. So this is actually what does happen. But I did have a scenario last year where a lady did have anxiety and she had a lot of complex trauma in her life. And she was unable to actually get herself to the appointment. So I actually did as a worker, give her the solution, the option to actually do phone calls for her appointments. And then we actually gradually I just chucked in there 1 month, a face-to-face. And if she didn't attend that appointment, it wasn't having shame on that person. It was identifying that the struggle's still there, but the support was still there as well with my phone calls and the appointments, and just making it bit by bit to then, ensure her that the support was still there and she didn't have to come in. Sometimes you probably do have to go on a Centrelink at times for other things, but this scenario, she didn't have to come in. But it was just having that support behind her, that she knew she was supported, and I identified as well that she was struggling with the face-to-face, and eventually she did come in. But it was the consistency that I showed her with me being her mentor and really supporting her and being there. And she actually didn't like that I left because she got to the point where she done face-to-faces. So I actually helped her overcome that by having all these that we've spoken about, these little steps to get her to be able to come in and be okay with it. I also put her into a room instead of having the office was just desks everywhere like Centrelink actually is. And that also didn't make her feel comfortable. So I identified that every time she did come in, I was already set up in a room. So it was just her and I. And I'd always say, do you want the door closed or would you like it open? And the choice was hers. So
amazing.
Building that rapport is where to get there.
So much deep consideration here. I love it and you've got such a holistic lens, everyone. You're considering what the stress was before she came, how you could reduce it, the stress of the event, reduce it, the stress after the event of going home alone. Love it. Adiyam, did you put your hand back up again or not take it down? No? Okay. Michael. Yay, we get to hear from Michael.
I finally found where the hand was.
Oh, is that what the problem was? Oh, now you're going to be going non-stop. What do you got to say?
No, what everyone was saying is absolutely amazing. It's
yes.
I think it's the last comment. One of the last comments was about the previous or the next appointment. I think in the question there was already an appointment made, and that could have escalated the anxiety and all the triggering, especially when she's gone through getting a car registered. She's climbed this mountain, and all
And
of
it
a
can be
sudden,
a mountain to her. You're right.
yeah, and
Yeah.
then going through this process of now that she's having to
Yeah.
go home in that triggered environment where she's in the foyer, people everywhere. So it's
So let's assume, because you've just given us a good point, which we haven't covered. So thank you. She's about to drive home. We haven't found anyone in town. There's no one to come with her. We've stayed with her. We've told her we'll ring her when she's home. She's had some de-escalating. She's done some deep breathing. She's now on the drive home. Do you think you should ask any questions before she leaves? What, Michael, you can give it to us because everyone else has it. What question are you going to ask just to say that she's safe to drive? How are you going to ask that compassionately so that you can judge the de-escalation? Someone else got her to give you a number of stress. Would you go back to that? How are you going to check in?
You would kind of assess it that, well, de-escalate her first.
Yes, so that's been done. Lots of cups of
then-
coffee, but she's on the drive home now. She's got all the numbers to ring. We know someone's waiting on the other end. But how are you going to check she's in the right mind to drive a trip alone? What are you going to ask her?
Are you safe to drive by yourself? You know, it's
And do the numbers that we had, I think it was Johanna, what you gave us the numbers and asked to check in how triggered she was with stress level. So would you check then if everything's worked, if removing her from the stressful environment?
assess like a risk assessment.
Yeah,
Where she's at.
she can say she's a 3 out of 5.
Yeah.
But you need to confirm safety now, especially because you're leaving.
The other option is that is she got family in the city?
Yes,
is there resources where she can go to?
Yes. Yep. Okay. So she doesn't have to drive, but she could stay. Good job. So not just someone to come with her for the drive home, which we thought, but now you're actually thinking maybe she can cancel the drive today. Maybe it's not appropriate to drive today. Well done. Is there someone that you can go to now that you don't have to drive home and be alone? Because we've assumed she had to. And now you've given us another question to check in with resources.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw one more in. So I know some people get triggered by coming into busy environments, especially if you are a country person. So after doing what you all did, which is amazing, saying, I can see you're upset, stepping forward, reassuring, I'm not leaving, all of that. I'd ask the question, I wouldn't assume a quiet room, absolutely a quiet room if it's the choice between a noisy reception. I would go straight to, would you like me to get a quieter room or would you like to get out of here? I would absolutely ask if they want to get out and go outside, because you could walk to a nearby park. So getting them to a place that's not busy and is private, just also think doesn't have to be inside a room. She might be wanting to get the hell out of that place. As you know, trauma can make you highly sensitive. And if she is a sensitive person, just being in Centrelink and indoors with all those other people that are anxious in the waiting line, emotions are contagious. You might need to get her actually outside. Just consider that as an option as well. Yeah. And then call Uber Eats to drop the coffees, because you won't have your jug. But anyway, but I absolutely would consider the environment change is right, but I'd be looking at outdoors. I can tell you right now, my heart races every time I go to a big shopping centre and I don't have her challenges. Well, how do you think you all went? Pretty good? You impressed with yourselves? So are you, actually, I should come back and check in really. Did you want to call it a night or do you want to quickly do the next one? We can do it next week. Now that you know what the deal is, we can do it next week and add it to the other one.
Yeah, we can do next week because we discussed, yes.
Yeah, you really got the egg whites to meringue on this one and
Yeah,
did so well. How about I just run you through it so you know what it is? You can think tank it. So here we go. I'm going to share as preparation for next week. So we are looking at Serena. Is a young woman who has experienced domestic violence. She suffers from anxiety, panic attack with help from her family and friends. She's left her boyfriend, moved to a suburb 3 hours away. She had the support of a childhood friend and their family. After she moved away, her boyfriend stalked her family and friends and threatened to, which we know stalking is a form of abuse. Inciting fear and stalking is classified as domestic family violence. Threatened to force them to give up her location, which is a personal safety intervention order is currently in place, and no one has heard from him since. Serena arrives at your service an hour ahead of her appointment. So she's coming indoors to you. She's rushing into the reception area an hour early for her appointment. She's extremely distressed and agitated. You're called out to receive her by the reception staff who's nearby. There's no one else in the waiting room, and you've got to respond to Serena and provide support in her crisis situation. Well, I actually want to just come back to the room. I think we could nail this one in a few seconds and just piggyback it on to the last one.
Yes.
Because this is the one where you do need to take her into a room, don't you? Because this is a lockdown situation. She thinks he's following her. So what we're going to do is look to this exactly what you did. You did such a thorough job. I'm happy to carry it across to everyone that was giving me stuff. We've done all of that. The reassure for safety. I'm here for you. I'm not leaving. But what's this one needing to do if someone is coming? What have we got to do? Let's finish this up and we'll be done before 9. Damien, let's just touch on the top.
Yeah, obviously, once you've taken in the room, I think first of all, you just let her know and reassure her that she is safe.
Yeah.
No one can get her here.
Yeah.
No one can come in. Just try and de-escalate that feeling as much as possible. Obviously, you've assessed it already. You're aware that, the threat has been made. So you're immediately probably going to jump to calling an emergency service, such as police. And obviously that's mandatory reporting as well. But obviously following through with that, calling the police, letting her know that help is on the way. And I think just a constant reiteration, obviously she's extremely distressed and agitated. So obviously while you're trying to calm her down, I think using calm tones, calm body language, and just a reiteration that she is safe. That he can't get you here. The police are going to be here. We're going to arrange different, reassure her in all different aspects. We will sort, accommodation. We will sort, we will find a place for you to stay, take away, try and work out all the fears and reassure them one by one.
So what I've heard that you've said there is that you are safe and we will keep you safe.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Safe now, but you took away the but.
Yeah.
Great job. Shanika.
I would also say to her, hey, I'm not going to leave you. I'm going to stay with you throughout this whole process until you're feeling safe and I can pass you over to police or emergency services. And I'd also be looking at following the organisation's procedure around lockdowns. So whether that's alerting reception to lock the front doors and put up signs to say we're experiencing a lockdown, or whatever that looks like for the company as well, to put the physical barrier up of locking the premises to make sure that someone isn't going to come into the building that's then putting other clients, other staff at risk as well.
I love what you've just done. You're safe. We'll keep you safe. I'm not leaving. The building is secure. Police are on their way. Great job, everybody. Now we've got Sarah. You're on mute. You got your little mute thing on still.
Sorry.
That's
Just
okay.
following up on what Shanika said too, and Damien, I would reassure her that she's safe and we have got the building locked down. But generally in these situations too, with an AVO being out and being a family violence, been through the situation in the past, you have a police officer, like a caseworker, that you always can contact pretty much 24/7 around the clock, and you have 2 numbers. I would probably, and if we have a rapport with them and they do come in as a social worker or something, we would have that contact. I would let them know that we're contacting them because they know their situation. So they generally come themselves, or if they can't, they send the appropriate team, knowing her triggers and what can really, really alarm her, but they know her situation from back to front. So I think reassuring her that we're going to send someone that she knows,
Your
or
case
someone is on the
managers
case.
are on
Yes.
the way.
Yeah.
Gosh, you guys are legends. I didn't expect this to be this good, to be honest. I really didn't think this would be that great. So love it. Support's on the way. Your support's on the way. So, Oranaka?
No.
No? Jessica? Sorry. Jessica.
Okay. So taking her to a safe place and then assuring her that where she is at this moment is safe and there's no one coming in. You quickly go like to alert other people in there at that moment, and then lock the doors and then call the emergency line, and then assure, like, go back to her. Like, you can do all this while walking with her. That one is also as a form of calming her down, since obviously she came in a rush. So then after calling the emergency line, you tell that everywhere is stopped, so no one is going out, no one is coming inside. So we open the door only when the police come in or emergency people come in. So at this particular time, she's safe and she doesn't need to worry. And then maybe you can offer her some water, because obviously she'll feel anxious and all that. And then you can maybe start with the procedures, because she came in 1 hour earlier. So if she had come in like exactly her time, what were you going to talk about? Maybe you can just start asking questions around those areas. So the police come in, and then obviously she might not feel safe maybe going back home from, like, going back to where she came from. So we start preparing, like, maybe to give her some space, like a different house or different room for like some days or so that we could check up on her, so that she can
Fabulous.
also
Right.
Yep.
Well done. Oranaka, what have you got?
Okay, so everyone has said, like, we'll try to assure her and everything. But first of all,
we won't repeat. Great job.
So she rushed in an hour. So I didn't see someone chasing her. I just assumed that maybe she saw her ex. So I need to reconfirm and be very sure of the reason why she rushed in. So I will throw up a straight question by asking, what's the situation like? Why the rush? Like, in a very calm manner anyway.
Yes.
So I really want to know what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
To make sure I'm putting, like, the people I'm calling is the right people I'm supposed to call at the moment. So I'm still going to put it straight, like, I know, yes, you are in a difficult situation now. I'll give her on a scale of 1 to 10. What do you think your situation is now? And how do you think I can help?
Fabulous. How do you think I can help? It's a great question, but you're absolutely right. You saw in the steps we've taken tonight is about assessing the situation, evaluating what's going on. Once she's secure and reassured, you can then cycle back to do some more assessment. Love it. It's not in a straight line. You're always assessing, reassess, and you're saying in this situation, you'd like to be calmly, kindly, respectfully direct questions and some facts. Yeah, I agree. You've got to, even to hand them over to the police, you've got to be able to maybe speak a little bit about what you've observed, but you've also got a report to write, guys. I was told. Yeah, so you're wanting to get an incident report already. Well done, good thinking. Michael?
She beat me to it.
Oh, okay. Well, if you got something else to Adiyam? Yeah, no, so many good things. What would you like to add?
Yeah, I was gonna say exactly what she said to assess what happened before, but she said it. Everything else was
That's
perfect.
okay.
But I was
You've
going to ask,
recognized it. That's all I need. I need to know. Don't anyone else cheat though and start putting your hand up and go, oh, I was just going to say
and I would,
20 things.
yeah,
Can you
yeah,
pass
and I
me?
also, yeah,
No, no,
sorry.
no.
And
Okay.
also
So
ask her
yep.
emotional, like how maybe because of the damage that happened before, maybe she's still emotionally damaged. That's why she just hears or she just
It could
imagines.
be paranoia. It could be an episode. It could be
But
drug
just,
induced. You do not know. You're right. But regardless, if your policies and procedures tell you, as Shanika said, you get on the phone, you use a code word, you get your supervisor, you just do it. This is this is a crisis situation. So you do the steps. If it says lock the doors, call the police, then you follow the procedure.
I'll do everything. Yeah.
Yes, you still do it, even if this is not occurring as she thinks. You are still securing safety for all, and then we might end up needing to look at some counselling skills that come into this. We don't know if this episode is actually, and more heightened from something else, or is someone really chasing her? I love the facts that Odinaka wants to get right down and get some details. Sky, you're next. What have you got to add?
I just want to add two things. I know in my work placement in this situation, we've all said, she's going to go to the police, take her down to the station, whatever. But I know in my organization personally, if you've got a rapport with this clientele, you and your supervisor are generally waiting at the police station there with her to make that transition into the women's shelter, into emergency accommodation a bit more easier for her. And a lot of the times we're actually staying, if it's not a women's center, we're actually staying in a conjoining room next to her just for her safety and support in case something happens throughout the night. And then the second thing that I want to mention, the aftercare for yourself. Are you seeing your supervisor?
Yep.
Are you speaking to
safety for everyone involved?
Yeah, are you speaking to your counselors? Are you debriefing correctly because you went through an ordeal yourself? And if you can't realize that, then you're no good for the next client.
Well done. Also, we haven't really touched on safety for self and others when we took off and bolted from the lady at reception, but we'll get, hopefully someone will mention her assessing safety for everybody. Sarah.
We followed our policies and procedures. That's in the policy and procedure. Okay, we did that.
Trick at the reception. I don't think that'll be written anywhere. Sarah, we got a laugh.
What I just wanted to ask was that it's Serena, wasn't it?
Yes.
Was her name Serena?
Yes.
Serena seemed very heightened. Because a lot of buildings have a lot of windows these days, especially in cities or wherever they are, would you try and take her to an internal room where there is no window so she doesn't think that he's coming past where he can see her if she does truly believe he's there?
That's
where
the
there's
other
no
thing
windows.
that I was waiting to hear, that you're in a safe space where you can't be seen. Thank you. Bingo. I'm loving this. Cool. What have you got to add? Well done.
Yeah, I wanted to add one thing. After taking her to the quiet and safe place, instead of ensuring her this place is safe for you, I would like to ask her, do you feel safe now? And is there anything that makes you feel unsafe? I would ask her that, and then she can, respond if she is feeling unsafe by anything.
So in the moment, you'd ask, what more can I do? What more can I do to make you feel safe right now?
Yeah.
Well done. Because she's guiding us. We're assuming things. We're assuming they want to do deep breathing. We're assuming they want to go to a room. We've got to say, would you like to stay inside or outside? Would you like to do that? Sense of control comes back by us giving it to them. They're out of control at that moment. So we've got to also make sure, as we saw, get consent. We're always doing consent for the steps as well. Would you like, is this, and I like that you've checked in, what more can I do? They're leading the way. We're not just coming at them with questions, they're coming to us with answers. Damien.
I think it needs to be considered. Obviously, we spoke about police, but in regards to emergencies, medical as well. given that we've spoken about how she has high levels of anxiety and panic attacks, someone who's, I've had that in the past, you know, some people take medication, you know,
Good job.
important to establish if she does take medication, if she does like, say for example, Xanax, like people with anxiety or panic attacks can take one of these and obviously reduce the feelings if she would like to take that medication, if she needs a glass of water, but also
Well
to have,
done. She might have something on her which you might have in her records. Well done.
but yeah, just have medical team come in and assess, because it is, you know, I personally have been in the emergency room having a crazy panic attack when, you know, a while back, and you do that moment of that feeling, even though you will be okay, it can feel like you're going to die, and whether or not you can't feel that for her and you can't see that feeling, so you know whether or not obviously medical intervention might be also along with police.
So you'd be looking at part of checking her, the crisis plan in the moment about safety might be knowing that she has medication that can assist her and that this is a situation she'd need it. You'd ask.
Yeah.
Done. Another resource. We're not going to give them medication from our bag. This is, again, consent. It's medication we know that's prescribed to them that we know that they take, and we're just going to ask, do you have it on you? Would you like me to get you a glass of water? Shanika.
I was just thinking, going back to what I think a few people were saying before, asking her to clarify the situation by saying, are you in fear of your life? And because to her, it might just be, well, no, I just don't want to see them. And it's just the thought of seeing them that's given them this anxiety, as opposed to them saying, yeah, they've absolutely come at me with weapons before, and I'm afraid that's going to happen again. And then that would lead into establishing what you then feed back to the emergency services. So obviously, if police are going to come in with all sirens blazing and so forth, it might scare her ex off, and then they'll be in the wind and no one will know where they are, and it's just going to escalate it for her in her mind that, well, he was there, but now where is he? Is he waiting for me at home or so forth, as opposed to just having a couple of police come in quietly and be able to spot him and then take the right measures with him. And I'd also say to her, because it said, I think there's already an AVO or something like that out, and saying to her, like someone mentioned before, what are the practices that go along with this? What's the next step from this? Who are those contact people? And so forth. And then obviously after all of that's been taken care of, potentially looking at whether your day has been impacted, therefore you're not going to be able to provide the necessary treatment for other clients, and whether or not you need to reschedule your whole day and take the rest of the day off for your own coping strategies.
So safety in the moment, and then safety for all, including yourself afterwards, psychological safety. Jen, and then we'll wrap it up, guys. Amazing.
Just adding on to what everyone else has said, I don't know if this could be a point where you need to ask her if there's other people who might need to be notified that this ex is having a stalking or sort of rage moment where other people might be in danger, like children or other family members that he might threaten. Yeah.
So you're assessing risk and you're finding out who else is involved, because it's safety for all. And as this one did mention that he was inciting and stalking some of her family.
Yeah.
So we don't, and as Adanaka has said, and Shanika, you got to check some facts here. Has something terrible just happened that she's fled from? And are people over there needing emergency services too? That's potentially possible. She's an hour early. She wasn't coming to you. She bolted into you. So there's a whole lot of triggers here. They're going an hour early and she bolts in. And we know other people are involved, that he's also inciting fear. This is domestic family violence to her and her entire family. So Jen, thank you. You went back and checked. Is the kids involved in this situation, the other family members, and what's their safety level too? Because we've locked down the building, but she ran from where for why, which is why these girls going, no, we need to know that. And now you're saying we need to know in contact, and you would offer, would you like me to contact your family? Because it might be that they actually aren't safe as well, and that she fled from the scene. So this is fantastic. So far I've got everything. This one, I just want to check. Catherine, is there anything else you would add? Because you've been quiet on this one. If you can give me something, I can get you through this one as well. And Charlie, I need to hear something from you. So even if you two want to stay back, because everyone, I need one more question from Michael, Catherine, and Charlie. Sorry, Jasper, I didn't hear from you, but everyone else you do pass. I don't know everyone's surnames, but I'll get them next week when we tick you all off, okay? I just don't want to do it while we're on camera. So just stay back, those three people, and I'll just do a little bit of a Q&A, and then I can pass you. So
Can I ask a quick question?
yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. So obviously those that have the don't need to stay back, so that passes us for task 1, assessment 1, 2 and 3.
Yes, it does, mate. And then we're doing 4 in the class next week, all the weekend. Light bulb moments, I think we had too many. And I think it's, unless anyone wants to, does anyone want to come back with light bulb moments, or you're all good? I think there's a lot to percolate. All right, I'll take us back. So I'm just got a quote here for you. Life isn't about finding yourself. Life is about creating yourself. There you go. Just wanted to leave you with something nice. Oh, so how do you feel, everyone? Thumbs up. Was that a good session? Do you feel like you know your stuff? Yeah, 2 thumbs up. Okay, I'm going to stop recording. And why can't I find that up here now?